All right, howdy everyone. So I'm in the middle of filming the latest installment of working on the Jaguar XJR, but I figured I would go live and let you guys take a look at the process of, basically just cleaning up the outer shell of the Supercharger. So yeah, basically just gonna be doing some cleaning. We're gonna seal the blower, and we're also going to just inspect everything and make sure that it looks good. So I'm gonna go get some cleaning, well, basically just some water on this and get started. All right, I'm back. So, I've said this in several of the videos we've done. When you're cleaning something and you're unfamiliar with the surface that you're cleaning, especially with something like raw aluminum like this, it's always good to start with the mildest cleaning agent that you can, right? So for me, that's always a microfiber and just fresh water. I'll always start with that. I'll get as much as I can off, and then we'll assess and see if we feel like we need more. So I've literally wiped this down dry with just a couple of shop cloths to get the worst of the actual dirt off and the burned rubber from this belt slipping. So now we're actually gonna get in with a wet cloth, and we're gonna see how clean we can get it with just some water. And again, it takes a ton off. And even if this is just a preliminary step, it'll make a nice difference, and it'll make sure that when we're actually cleaning the thing, if we do end up using like some detergent or another cleaning agent, that's basically reaching the metal itself and not just getting stuck and soaked into this dirt. And of course, the fun thing with a casting like this is you end up with all these tiny nooks and crannies down in there. So it can be really tricky sometimes to actually get into those corners, but I've got a couple little techniques that I've found over the years that are probably pretty obvious, to be honest. But I mean, as you can see, right, we're taking a ton off here with simply just a wet cloth. So for those of you guys that don't know, this is the snout off of my Supercharger. This is off of my 2000 Jaguar XJR. And so this is an Eaton M112 Supercharger, which for those of you more familiar with American cars, is the same Supercharger that the Terminator Cobra, so the 03 and 04 Cobra uses. And basically, like I said, same physical blower. And it makes for a lot of fun. But unlike on the Terminator, which is on a dual overhead cam 4.6 if I'm correct, this is on an all aluminum 4-liter. It's the AJ27 in my case, the AJ27 V8. And if you're ever bored, you should definitely look that engine up. It is actually a pretty impressive feat of engineering. In the year 2000, right? Actually, technically, I think in 97 when this thing came out, it was making 370 horsepower, 390 foot-pound of torque. And if any of you were around in the late 90s, you'll know that that is an absolute ton of power for that time period. Like, for reference, the Mustang GT of the same time period was making, I think, 215 to 225 horsepower at the time out of a 4.6 liter. So you're talking 150 more horsepower. And, I mean, the car came with a high price tag. I think it was $80,000 back in, the 90s, which is obviously a ton of money. But you definitely got what you paid for as far as the performance, because the thing was an absolute missile. It was toe-to-toe with the E55 AMG for the title of most powerful production sedan of the years that it came out. So the reason I'm doing this cleaning today is, well, A, opportunistic, right? I mean, the thing's apart. You should always try and clean things up when you have access to them that you don't normally have. So like little areas like this would be almost impossible to reach with it on the car. You can see all that. That's actually rubber, by the way. So yeah, basically, whenever you're taking something like this apart, just take the time, clean it. And like I've done this with the whole engine bay, every component that I'm putting back on. I want this thing to look as clean as humanly possible. If I'm doing this much work and I'm taking the car this far apart, I might as well, have it go back together cleaner than it's ever been. But yeah, so you heard me mention about the rubber. If you haven't been following along on the build series, this thing was suffering from some major belt slip, but it's not the common reason, which is, you know, a lot of people have belt slip if they have a worn out tensioner or something like that. Yeah, no, my reason was a little more stupid than that. Basically, the rear locating bolt for this blower was just not tight, just wasn't, you know, tightened down. So the whole blower under load was able to pitch forward and allow the belt to slip on the pulley, which was absolutely insane. I've never seen anything like it. So yeah, this time when it goes back in, you can be damn sure that that bolt is getting down tight, and probably with a little bit of removable thread locker as well. So we're starting to get into some of these little nooks and crannies here. And again, this is just the preliminary wipe down. We'll see if I want to go further after it all comes up. But so far, I mean, again, we're getting a lot off of this thing with just clean water. And the beautiful thing is, you know, when you're working with like a raw metal surface, like if you try and use a solvent like brake cleaner or something like that, sometimes you can end up with like these weird striations or like weird dull spots or white marks and things like that. Ask me how I know. And yeah, so I've always learned just start with the easy stuff first and then work your way up when you're cleaning something. So let me see if we got any comments here. There we go. I always forget to turn this on, so sorry if I've missed your comments. Hey! Thank you very much for following along. Much appreciated. And by the way, Resurrection Auto absolutely knows what they're talking about when it comes to cleaning. That is definitely someone you should follow if you're into ceramic coating or like actual vehicle surface cleaning as well. When it comes to like paint correction and all that, guy's an absolute master. So go check out his channel for sure. He is definitely worth checking out. So we're looking pretty good here. I think I'm gonna give it just a little bit more of a once over with this, and then I'm gonna kind of take a closer look and see if I'm happy with it. This snout came from Powerhouse Performance in the UK, and I had them pre-assemble it with the underdrive pulley. So this is a 10% pulley, which basically adds about 2.5 psi of additional boost over stock. And so stock, this thing is running about, I think it's 12.5 pounds. So that puts you right at about 15 pounds of boost with this pulley, which is kind of a lot. And again, remember, this is a car that was designed in the late 90s, and it's a V8. So, you know, you're running a surprising amount of boost in a decently sized motor. It's definitely a lot of fun. There we go. All right, so inside here, you can see we got our mating surface, which we want to keep super clean. And then this is our coupler. So basically, put it that way, the coupler has these 3 locating pins, or well, holes, and the main blower body has pins that go into said holes. And then you can see the spring inside of there. That's basically to counteract lash, and basically stops you from really wearing out the components of the blower fast. So essentially, it's a very important thing, and it's always good to make sure that your coupler is in good condition. And I relatively recently changed the oil on this thing. You can see how clean the oil was in there. So I inspected the coupler at that time and was pretty satisfied with its condition, thankfully, because I really did not feel like replacing it. And yeah, so basically that I just gave a simple wipe out. You know, it's gonna have fresh oil going in there, but because the oil wasn't terribly bad, I don't really think we needed, you know, any cleaners or anything like that. And then this is the actual pulley itself. So this is a the Powerhouse Performance, you know, underdrive pulley. I keep calling it underdrive. I'll have to see if that's the correct term. It's either underdrive or overdrive. But either way, it makes the blower spin faster. And essentially, the nice thing about this pulley, unlike a lot of other pulleys, in fact, the vast majority of pulleys on the market are aluminum, and this one is actually stainless steel, which really helps to combat belt slip, which is a really nice thing when you're doing a smaller pulley, because it's a common issue to have, you know, your tensioner now having to work overtime. So yeah, basically, that was a nice simple little cleanup there, and she looks fantastic. I'm pretty satisfied with this. I really don't think I need to go any further. I feel like compared to how it was, especially just covered in all that black rubber and everything, I think it looks pretty good. And there's some areas of this that you physically cannot see once it's installed in the car. And that's not actually dirt, that's actually just a little bit of pitting or oxidation on the aluminum. You know, this is a 22-plus-year-old part, so that's to be expected. So now I'm basically gonna clean down this mating surface with just a little bit of parts cleaner. That one I am gonna use a solvent on because I want that to be absolutely clean and oil-free, because we're gonna be using a little bit of RTV. And anyone that watched my blower service video will know that when I initially assembled this, I did not use a sealant because I found kind of conflicting information both from Jaguar's technical specs and then also the Cobra guys online. And I just found a mixed bag of people saying, nope, I didn't use sealant on mine, definitely don't use sealant, it's not supposed to use sealant. And then other guys saying, yeah, there's no way in heck I'm absolutely using sealant. And when I put mine together without sealant, it did ever so slightly leak, which was kind of annoying. So this time we're gonna use a little sealant. We're gonna see if the other guys are correct. So I'm gonna wipe this down. Actually, let me go get that parts cleaner real quick and give this surface a wipe down there. And we will go from there. Ow. And then, in theory, we can get into what may be the slightly more exciting part of this, which is the actual body of the blower. As much as the pulley is kind of cool to look at, you get to see the gears inside of the body here, so, which is what this coupler connects to. All right, I think we are good. So, put that down over there. And make sure we have enough space here. Scoot that back. All right. There we go. And here is the main body of the blower, the bigger part. So you can see right here, this is the gear drive. These are what turn the impellers, which you can see working up there, inside the blower. And that is what forces the air. So in this case, this is actually a rear fed blower. So the air actually comes in the rear here, like that. And these impellers basically force it through and up out the top, there. And then there's a hat that goes on this, which basically feeds that air straight out of the blower and into the charge air coolers. So this thing is an intercooled supercharger, which is nice. Really lets you maximize the boost, you know, like you're actually using it properly instead of just heat soaking like crazy. So again, same deal. I'm just gonna try and clean down these outer surfaces here with the goal of just trying not to let any of that dirt or debris get inside. And you know, normally I probably should have actually done this before I split the blower. But here we are. If I just go slow and steady and let the cloth kind of do the work, it's not really knocking too much loose dirt off. It's all coming off onto the cloth. But you can already see, again, how much it brightens up with just some water. And yeah, I learned the hard way that aluminum is just a weird, finicky material to clean, especially when it's raw like this. And, you know, I tried all manner of different cleaners and abrasives and, you know, gentle abrasives, obviously, nothing crazy, but just like a scrubby brush and a, you know, even a toothbrush. And, you know, mixed results, nothing terrible. I mean, you're looking at the blower right now and it doesn't look bad. But, yeah, in the end, I think this will be all it needs. Oh, and another fun fact about these Jags. So you would think, all right, the front surface is the part we want the cleanest. That's what everyone's gonna see when you open the hood. You're looking right at the front of the motor. That's how it is on, you know, almost every car ever, right? But on the Jag, it's different because you have to remember that this is the last generation of Jag that has the clamshell style hood that opens the other way. So if you're looking at the engine bay, you're going to be standing at the fender looking kind of forward, which means you actually see these back surfaces of the ribs and things like that that you're less likely to see on a car with a normal hood. So when I'm cleaning this thing, I have to actually think kind of backwards about what parts people can see. Like this little nook that you can't see right now because you're at the front of the blower. Someone looking at my car will be able to see that if the hood's up. Stupid little pedantic stuff like that, though, is worth paying attention to. Because if you do, it really shows that you care for your car. Your car enthusiasts will obviously appreciate it. Honestly, I feel like your car will thank you for it. I feel like when I take the time to clean these parts and it all goes back together looking fantastic, the car just runs happier in general. And like I said, it's a pain in the neck to clean these things when they're installed in the car, so why not do it now? Like this part that I'm cleaning here, zero chance, physically impossible to reach when it's in the car. Like this top surface you can get to relatively easy if you're willing to detach the charge air coolers and all that stuff, but so here we go. This is a trickier area right here. I'm gonna spin this around and let you guys see what I'm working on here. So down in these little fins, right in the bottom here, see that little dirt buildup down in those. So we're gonna try and get down into that if we can. I told you I had a secret trick, right? And it's really obvious what it is, but that's to get your cloth in there and then take a pokey stick. In this case, I'll use the hex wrench that I use to remove the drain plug, and basically use that to swizzle the cloth around in there. And it lets you get into those tight corners that you can't get into with your finger, and you can actually still apply pressure to the cloth. And what do you know? That looks way better. Got about 90% of it out there. Obviously you want to be careful not to let the wrench, or whatever tool you're using drag against the aluminum without the cloth on it. You don't want to score it up, but this works super well. So the one thing I remember about this blower is it was pretty gross when I first got the car, and there was only so much cleaning I could really do. So like inside of these ribs, you can probably see there's some slight kind of, amber coloring to them, almost like basically just dirt buildup. And really, I was only able to get so much of it off. So there's only so clean it'll ever be. But again, 22-year-old car, what you gonna do? So if you've been following the project, you probably know we've made a huge turning point. And if you want, I can give you a sneak preview of what the next video is gonna show. So follow me, we're gonna show you something you haven't seen yet. But look at that. We have the valve covers on, we have the timing cover on. So the whole top end is now the next project. That's why I'm working on the blower. But yeah, and you can see what I'm talking about as far as cleaning. I mean, look how clean I managed to get the engine and like the frame rails and all that stuff that you can't normally see. So again, it's worth the effort. All right, boom, there we go. Okay, so we're back to cleaning on this. So I'm actually gonna wipe the interior of this down a little as well, because there is just a little bit of residue in there. And obviously, I'm gonna make sure I don't use that same part of the cloth on the outside of the blower, because that residue is oil-based, and I don't wanna just start wiping dirty oil back onto the body of the blower. But I think we're almost done here. This is the cool thing. Because I had already kind of thoroughly cleaned this the last time it came off the car, really, I'm mostly just taking the rubber off. But my God, when I first took this thing off, the amount of burned rubber that was on that snout was crazy. Like you ever seen like the rubber that's left on a road during a burnout? Basically the same deal. It was just coating the front of the blower and the area around it on the motor and everything. It was nuts. And honestly, I just thought I had you know, bad belt slip because of a failing tensioner, which is truly what most people would be running into. And it turns out that that was not the case. My situation was a little different because I had that stupid loose stud at the back. So we're gonna get some of this extra residue out of here as well. Same deal, I'm doing my best to make sure the cloth is picking up the dirt. There's no loose debris falling down into the vanes of the blower. Because, you know, these things are pretty robust. It's not like it's gonna instantly blow up if you get a couple grains of dirt down in there, but, you know, it's still better not to, because you could tear up the actual impellers themselves if you get it too bad. I've always wondered, there's this stamping or like carving inside of this blower, and it says 9241, and I wish I knew what it was. Like, I wondered if it was like a factory stamping or something. There's also, or like carving I should say, there's also a couple of dates in here as well. It says like 3-6 or 5-6 or something. Those are harder to read. They're not quite as deeply scored in there. But yeah, always been a curiosity of mine as to like whether those are a manufacturer's stamp or if it's been done like because the thing had a service, but I will never know. So same deal, now that I'm satisfied with the outside of the blower here, I'm gonna clean this mating surface down on the top here and also on the front. A little bit of parts cleaner. And you can see, I think, like this little residue there, that's where the parts cleaner comes in. It kind of just breaks that down and, you know, it gets the worst of it off. You can see right there. That's the kind of stuff that would be fighting us getting a good seal. So on the top here, it just has a modern style, you know, gasket that works really well. But on that front face, again, we're going to be using some RTV. So we want to make sure we give that the best possible chance of sealing. So we're going to move on to the front face now. All right. So let's see here. We've actually got a little bit of oil now that this has sat for a little bit. A little bit of oil has kind of worked its way down and kind of drained out. So I'm going to soak that up just to make sure that doesn't end up on the face. And if you've never worked with Supercharger oil, it is pretty much the most foul-smelling substance that you'll ever deal with in a car. Like, it is truly just acrid. It is, ugh. I don't know what it is, and it gets worse after the blower has been used. It's like, you know, already pretty gross smelling when you first put it in, but man, after the, like this thing when I first took it apart, the old oil that was in there, it was horrific. I played cool in the video and was like, ah, it's not as bad as everyone says it is, but no, it was pretty rough. So there we go. All right. I am pretty satisfied with that outcome. So I think now the next step is basically going to be sealing the snout back onto this thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a block of wood. I'm going to stand this thing up on end. That way we can work downward and gravity is not working against us. So give me 2 seconds, I'll be right back. All right, we're back. This is the most important tool that any mechanic can have in their shop. A block of wood. So, stand this guy up here like that. Figured I'd give you guys the fun view inside the blower, rather than just like the underside, which now shows me that, holy crap, the underside's pretty dirty, but I'm not gonna make you guys sit and watch that. I can clean that once the snout's on. But yeah. So basically, we're gonna get some RTV, we're gonna put it on the top face here. Let me see if I can give you guys a slightly better view too. Let's get you some elevation. That's the best I got for now. Aha, wait, I could probably do this. Get you guys even more elevation, look at that. Lift kit, love it. All right, so we are gonna grab some RTV, like I said. And we're going to just do a thin bead around this whole face. And then the other thing I need to check is the torque spec for these bolts. It's been a little bit since I've done them, so hair's going funny. So I just want to make sure I torque those to the correct specification. So we're gonna double check that too. So let me go get that RTV. Alright, got it here. And we're gonna use the little nozzle for this as well. Right. Okay. Probably should have had this ready to go. Sorry, everyone. So, this is just Permatex gasket maker, and it is good stuff. And this is the first tube of any gasket maker type stuff I've ever had that didn't immediately dry up after the first use. I think this is now like the 4th or 5th time I've used it, and it just keeps going, which is amazing. So, because I always feel like you buy one of these, use it once, and the next time you reach for it, it's all dried up, and you just throw it away and buy another one. So, let's see, snout is ready to go over there. That's good. So the isolator bushing is good. It basically, that's what I was referring to earlier, is the coupler. I inspected it. It doesn't have excess lash or anything like that. That's what you want to check for while the snout is still on. You can kind of feel if there's any lash or play between the components. You will feel a little bit of motion, which is the spring within that doing its job. But basically, the bushing itself actually was in good shape, still serviceable, so it does not need to be replaced, which is awesome, because I would really prefer not to buy more parts at this point in the process. So I'm going to get some of this up into the tube tip here. There it is. All right, we're starting to get it to come through. And again, when I say we're going to use a very small amount, I mean a very small amount. That's why I'm using the little applicator nozzle here instead of just gooping it on. And the big thing I'm going to really want to avoid is letting any of this work its way inward. Because again, you have 2 flat metal faces and a decent torque spec, so it's going to squish this a lot. So I mean, we want like the thinnest possible film here to minimize any of it coming inward. Otherwise you risk, getting a bunch of goop inside of this with your gears. Not something you want to mess with. So surface is clean. That's ready to go. That's to hand. Oh yeah, that's what I need. It's going to be thread locker for the bolts. And again, we are using a removable thread locker. We don't want to put these in there forever and ever. Otherwise, just throw the whole blower away if it breaks. All right, so we're going to go slow and steady, and we're going to just do a real tiny amount. God, I forgot how much I hate these tubes. I feel like the amount of hand strength you need to squeeze this stuff out is ridiculous. I'm just putting little dots kind of every so often, and that should yield about the right amount to create that thin film that I mentioned. But yeah, I can already tell you, my hands are going to be tired after this. It gets me every time. This seems to be a good method. There we go. Haha. So I'm actually just using most of my hand strength by doing it this way, which is great. And I'm able to just create 1,000 teeny tiny little dots. And there we go. Holy crap, that was actually a lot easier. So I'm going to use my applicator here, and we're going to gently create, like I said, that really thin film. And I want this to basically, like I said, have no real thickness to it. I mean, just enough for it to, actually do its job as a gasket, but, borderline, just a smear kind of thing. But you want it to be consistent. That's the other thing. If you go too thin and you have breaks in it, that's actually fighting against what you're trying to do, because you're providing the oil an opening to leave through. So you want it to be kind of that balance of as thin as possible to where it's not going to mush out, or I should say in, but also consistent. I think we may have nailed it with the thickness that we were doing there. This seems nice and consistent. I feel pretty good about this. I think we need just a tiny bit more on that corner and maybe a tiny bit there. So we're gonna put a dot there, and let's see, that all looks good, good. Yep. Yeah, I think we're maybe one there. Perfect. All right. Yeah, that I feel a little better about. Pull that back, get that around there. Now, the one thing that sucks is, you know, it was nice not having to clean this stuff off, so if I ever do have to open this blower up again, you know, it's less fun, because obviously now you have a sealant that you have to clean off, but worth it, you know, to not have it leak, right? So, you know, it is what it is. All right, let me grab the snout. So, like I mentioned, we have the coupler, and basically we're going to make sure that lines up with the pins. So I think we're going to rotate it like that, if I'm correct, and should be able to drop it onto those dowels. Of course, come on. Aha, I may be, oh, I remember what it was. So this got me last time. It's not the holes, it's actually the notches. I always forget that. So we want to actually put it more like that. I can't believe I forgot that. It goes right there, like that. And then the dowels here and here, it's seated on those. And there we go. All right, so the snout is now on. So we're going to take a little bit of our thread sealant, put it on each of the blower bolts here, or thread locker, I should say. And I'm gonna start by not actually doing these to a specific torque spec. We're just gonna get it to where they are pinning this down so the gasket maker can be doing its job. And then we'll come back and we'll actually torque them to the correct spec. Okay. But I did clean these bolts off earlier just to get them as tidy as possible. Got that one started. Little locker on that one. And for all of you guys watching right now, I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to join me. I'm hoping, if I understand correctly, that this is enjoyable for you to watch, something kind of slow and methodical, you know. And it's cool working on a supercharger, right? It's like just one of those car parts that you don't always even get to interact with. I mean, a lot of cars don't have them, most cars don't have them. And it's fun not to just have one, but actually be able to work on it and say, hey, yeah, you know what, I serviced my blower. Pretty cool. High school me would be super excited right now. He would think I was the coolest dude ever. And that's what's important. Making your past self proud in your everyday life. There we go. All right, so we're gonna zip these down with the handy dandy power ratchet. Put that on Titan mode. Now, whenever you're working with aluminum, you want to go slow and steady. So basically, we're not going full throttle. You can see this is still way faster than if I were to do it with a regular ratchet. And I'm going to kind of work sort of an X pattern here. Almost done. There we go. And I did see your guys' chats come in. I'm going to answer those in just a second. I really wish I could get it to have the chat stay up. For whatever reason, they pop up and just immediately disappear. I need to find the setting where I can keep that up permanently. So like I said, you see how I'm kind of going relatively slow, because you just don't want to slam these into the aluminum. I heard one creator talk about that one time, and it stuck with me as a pretty good idea. And if you're working with these Jags, basically everything's aluminum, so you got to be careful. Block, the cylinder heads, the charge air coolers, the risers, like pretty much anything that is metal on this thing is made out of aluminum. Well, not the sheet metal, I guess, but... Alright, we're almost there. Perfect. Alright, so those are at least nipped up. I'm going to let that sit for just a moment. And I'm going to answer a couple of things I saw coming in. So let's see what we got. Very cool. Alright. Yes, I am doing this live. Yeah, it's... I do have a secret, though, about why I'm comfortable doing this live. This isn't my first rodeo servicing this blower. I have actually serviced this one before. And, you know, so I kind of know my way around it. Learned a couple things from that time. So I don't really mind. And then, let's see what we got here. Yeah, it keeps disappearing. Stop disappearing. All right, there we go. All right, so what else am I doing today on the XJR? So the goal is to actually get the blower installed. I'm not going to put the oil in it yet. We're going to let the gasket maker set up for a day or so before I actually put the oil in. The nice thing is you can fill the oil with it in the vehicle because the way the fill plug works, it's real easy. So that's cool. But we're at least going to get the blower installed as well as the charge air coolers. That's the goal. And there's some of the wiring and like the fuel injectors, the risers, things like that all go with it. So I'll be doing that, and obviously that'll come out in the actual video that we release relatively soon. So I'm just putting a slight lean on this, real gentle, but basically, as you can imagine, these are now a little looser after doing all of them down. So there we go. And this is just getting slightly more firm pressure onto that gasket maker material. That one, come up to this one, that one there, and this one. All right, so that is at least close enough to where the sealant is now doing its job. I'm going to find the proper torque spec here before the thread locker dries. But that I have a little time on, so we'll get these actually torqued down to spec. Let's see what else we got here. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So let's see. Hey, S-Type R, good taste. Yeah, those things are very cool. You don't see many of them around either. It's something that, like, when I see one, it's always exciting. Jags in general in our area are relatively rare, and usually when I see ones of our generation, they tend to be the, you know, XJs like mine, or every now and then you'll see an XK. So there we go. Oh, wow, -5. That's also sounds fun. Very, very cool, and I love seeing you guys engaging in the chat. That is what this is all about, bunch of fellow Jag fans. There we go. So I have thought about getting it redone, honestly. It's just one of those things where you have to ship the blower off to do that. You know, I haven't really got a shop local that will do that service for me. I would love to, but there is this crazy part of me that says if I'm having any major work done to this blower, I may look into one of the Kenny Bell 2.6 twin screw blowers. There's a gentleman a while ago, I think his name is Avos, who used to make blower kits for these cars, and they no longer do it. I think only a handful of cars ever got, you know, those installed, but I kind of scrutinized how they did it and realized it's something I think I could actually accomplish. So I'm trying to strike that balance where it's like, you know, this thing is well serviced, you know, it's reliable, it behaves really nicely, but without sinking, you know, every penny I have into you know, the nitty-gritty stuff. So if this blower ever needed a more major service, you know, it was already a stretch for me to do the pulley. I think I would just, you know, sell this blower on to someone as a core with a cool pulley on it, and maybe look into getting a twin screw, because that would make a notable power difference. So, you know, I feel like I would have a little more fun and excitement, because I think guys running those twin screws, pretty much they tend to, I think they're making like in the 500 and something horsepower range, which is probably pretty exciting in a car as big as this. So I'm just going to work on cleaning down the underside of the blower here. Yeah, it's just a little grimy, predictably. And I think because of the oil leak, a lot of it ended up under here, and then the rubber sticking to the oil. There we go. But that is one of my favorite things about this YouTube channel, is I am in no way pretending to be some high-end perfect shop that knows every in and out of these and does everything perfectly every, you know, first try, whatever. It's like, nope, I am just a dude with a, you know, decent inkling for how cars work. But I am brave enough to dive in and just do this stuff and, you know, do the research and figure out how to do it right, or at least as close to right as possible with the tools and resources on hand. So there we go. Getting pretty close to what I think I would call satisfactory here. Rotate that to there. Excellent. We very much are lucky to have those manuals. I'll tell you, they have come in handy so many times. Like, I would say 99% of what you need to service one of these cars is available in those manuals. And just every now and then there might be like one little nuance that the manual just doesn't cover. You know, like it might be a torque specification that it's missed, or, you know, just a service procedure that's, you know, a little bit vague. But I'll tell you, it's almost every job I've had to do with this thing, those manuals have been the source of go-to information, and I've been very, very thankful for them. Because I know a lot of cars that is not available to the community, and that makes things significantly harder. So let's see here. I'm gonna slide this forward. Oh, that's not gone well. There we go. I think right about there. And we're gonna do a flip like that. Okay. So, lower you guys back down a little here. So basically, we are pretty much ready to rock. I think I am satisfied with where this is. I think it looks nice and clean. The face should seal nicely now, which is exactly what we were looking for. I'm gonna go find the torque spec for the main bolts. And yes, I do agree with you. It's one of the coolest things I was saying earlier. It's like a lot of people don't, you know, ever really get to interact with a blower. And like you said, it's like when you get to just pick one up and heft it around, kind of makes you feel like a macho, you know, cool dude. It's a fun thing, right? It's like, haha, I own this. I own a car that has this, and it works sometimes. And honestly, if you haven't followed the channel yet, by the way, once this thing goes back on, you know, I've got a lot of exciting stuff I want to do, you know, where I haven't really been able to do it before because the car was just, you know, not quite perfect, honestly. I didn't want to thrash on it and blow something up, which would just make my job that much harder. So, you know, I ended up basically just taking it easy the whole time with the car, which means it's been a lot of these like informative service videos, things like that. But once this thing goes back on, with the deep service that we've done, the better head gaskets, the new head bolts, everything done properly. You know, we found that one of the cylinder heads was out of time. We fixed that. All new timing sets, tensioners. I mean, we've, you know, fully comprehensive, you know, service of the engine. The only thing we didn't do was the rotating assembly, because thankfully that was fine. But I mean, we even cleaned the carbon off the top of the pistons, inspected the bores, everything. So once this goes back together and it goes through kind of its break-in period, I plan on having a little fun with this. I've got this current set of tires that are on the car, which are basically, you know, set to be removed because I have new tires. I'm gonna be slaying those. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So yeah, I really, really appreciate the, you know, the perseverance of our followers through some of the more mundane stuff that we've been doing. And the fact that the channel has been growing even with that is super, super awesome. But there is some fun stuff to come. That's what we've been looking forward to this whole time. So yeah, let's see. I saw a few other chats coming in as well. Yeah, these cars are an amazing bit of engineering. You know, they're a little bit fiddly like a lot of European cars are. But I'll tell you, I've had a buddy with like a BMW 328i, and just, you know, it's a whole different level when people complain about European cars. Like, I've seen some of the service stuff on that is just ridiculous. Whereas this, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like, there's a lot of hoses and bits and bobs that you have to move out of the way. But everything kind of serves a purpose. It's really not as overcomplicated as it seems. And really, you know, if you're just fearless and willing to spend the time, it's not that much different than any other modern car. So yeah. Awesome. Hey, thank you for being a follower on both channels. I appreciate it. I really do. And yeah, you know, it's been a fun ride, honestly, growing both. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, the 59 has been an icon over there. And I guess yeah, the XJR has been the icon over here, and I'm hoping to try and get more love for each car and each thing. For whatever reason, YouTube has just latched onto the XJR, which is cool, but I'd love for some more followers based off the 59. And for whatever reason, the TikTok, like, they don't care at all about the Jag, but every time that Chevy goes up, they love it. So, but we'll see. It kind of is what it is. So yeah. And yeah, you are right. Those hoses are really annoying. But as you saw, I did the huge comprehensive hose service on this thing first. And it's just one of those projects where I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do all of it and just get it out of the way. And here I am. I had to take almost all those same hoses off again to do this. But, you know, it is what it is. Live and learn. And yes, I am very excited to have the XJR done. Honestly, I miss my baby. I've been dailying the 59, and I love the car, but it's not nearly as quiet and comfortable, you know? So, yeah. Ah, man. Let's see. Oh, yes, I do remember that. Yep. So, yeah, and again, I'm not planning on selling the Atomic Bell. You know, that's one where I've had, you know, a bunch of people ask me for the price and things like that. I really don't think that's going to be a cash deal at all. You know, the only thing that would make me consider moving the 59 on is if I found something that I promise would be equally as cool, if not cooler. I've really only got one thing that has checked that box so far. I'm actually meeting with the guy tomorrow, so you guys are getting kind of the insider sneak preview. And there's no inclination that, you know, I'm necessarily going to trade the car tomorrow or anything. I'm just going to go meet him, look at his car, he's going to look at mine. We're talking about maybe doing an even up trade, which in a weird way is something I've kind of always wanted to do. It's like one of those cool TV show things that you always see and you're like, you know, never really happens in real life. And if I could trade one awesome car for one equally awesome car and it was an even up thing, I don't know, I just feel like one of those cool car guys. And plus, it would, I promise, if I trade for this vehicle, it will be something that on both channels, everyone will really, really enjoy. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag as to what it is, but the fact that I'm taking it seriously and actually considering letting the 59 Chevy go should tell you how awesome this vehicle is. So, I am, I think, going to figure out the torque specs for these bolts. I'm not going to make you guys watch me torque bolts. I know you all know how to do that. It's very easy. And I do need to probably use my phone to look those up. What I may jump back on live later, we'll see, but I've got to do some more filming for the actual video that'll be coming out here relatively soon as well. Oh, okay, you know what? All right, we've got the request for the shop tour. I've seen that come in twice. We will give that to you. So, for those of you that haven't seen the shop space, we have our workshop. I'm walking all the way to the corner so you can see it. And this is really weird doing this in selfie mode. but I don't have a way of turning the camera around, which is one of the super, oh wait, I do, hang on. It's a miracle, I figured out how to do it. Man, the last like 5 lives, I couldn't find that button. So basically, this is the garage door where we come in through. We have our little office over there, which I'll walk over to in just a moment. But basically, you pull in the bay door, and there's a Jag in the way. But normally, this is where we would have, you know, your quicker service vehicles come in and out, like anything that just needs an oil change or something simple. So we've got the stack over there with a couple of cool rides. So on the bottom here, we've got the 2nd gen Viper, which is super duper cool, and hopefully we'll have some more content coming out on this next year. I know there's some very cool parts in the works for this, which I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag on, but you'll have to follow to find out if you don't already. And then up here, we've got the Porsche 928, which is absolutely immaculate, low miles, and super, super cool. So yeah, this thing is a really cool ride. So we'll have content on both of these coming out soon. We even talked about maybe doing a race between this and the XJR. That could be kind of fun. And then you guys all know the XJR, obviously. You see how nice and clean the engine is. It's looking really good. And yep, so this will be fun. And actually, something I don't think I've showed a lot of people yet, but I allowed myself one little treat for the XJR. Whoa. Okay, right here. There we go. Yeah, I had to buy myself a boost gauge. I couldn't resist. And, you know, again, it's like the fun of having a supercharged car. I've always wanted a car with a boost gauge. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, put it where the clock goes. You know, and a lot of people like cut the dash, put the gauge there. I've seen some people run the A-pillar pod. I'm not a fan of either of those because quite frankly, I love the classiness of having the clock. And also the A-pillar pod kind of gives it away a little bit too much, right? You see the big boost pod right there, you know. So I found the perfect spot for it, which is right here. And I can actually see that right through the steering wheel. It's the perfect little spot. It doesn't interfere with my knee. So I'm actually going to be mounting my boost gauge down there. And I actually like the fact that I can kind of fact check myself on those boost figures. You know, I've said in multiple videos that this thing from the factory runs about 12.5 pounds of boost. With the pulley, it should run about 15. But we'll see. I mean, like, I want to see if it actually puts out that boost because, you know, on YouTube, you see so many people who are like, oh, this is my 1,000 horsepower car. It's never been on a dyno. You know, it's probably like 500 wheel or something. And don't get me wrong, that's a lot. But, you know, I like trying to be honest and real. And that's where I'm like, you know, this thing was really fast. And I saw the comments about how clean the interior is. Yes, this is one of the reasons I fell in love with this thing. I mean, it is just immaculate. But yeah, the reality is I'm not going to sit here and, you know, and spout off numbers without actually having, you know, a real, oh, there we go, a real number. So to answer your question, from the factory, this would have come with 370 horsepower, 390 foot-pound of torque. Obviously, when I was running this before with all the issues, I'm sure I was way under that. This thing was probably making, if I was lucky, maybe 300 wheel, I think, because realistically, I had belt slip, I had one cylinder head, one tooth out of time, I had boost bleed off at the back because there was a leaking pipe, like, which I fixed in the first round, but even then, and then I also had like the coolant purge issues, all that crazy stuff that was going on all at the same time. And like I said, if I was lucky, I was making 300 wheel. Yeah, exactly. The fact that this thing drove here to the shop with all that going on, and I think I finally threw away the head gaskets. I would have loved to show you, but my God, like, it was rough. I mean, you know, there was definitely the old coolant and oil mixture on the old bolts that came out, but with the wrong bolts, by the way. That's the main reason that this all happened. But in general, this thing was an absolute trooper. I mean, it just, like, it got itself all the way here. It was, you know, yeah, it was very impressive that it hung in the way it did. But now we're running the upgraded MLS gaskets. We've got, you know, everything is squeaky clean. I've got a significantly better belt for the blower. So we really will be driving it properly. I mean, just all manner of good things. And also, I kind of know my, yes, it is in fact green on green. I might have done that on purpose. I kind of know what one of my Christmas presents is already. My lovely wife might have bought me some high flow cats for this as well. So that will also make a big improvement. I hear that those do help the power. So, you know, probably looking at. Anyway, so back to the shop tour. Sorry, I know I got sidetracked talking about my car. We have all of our parts storage shelves for the other projects that we've got going on here. You can see a lot of Jag parts there. Some for the Mustang up top. That looks suspiciously like a Viper intake manifold up there. And our compressor set up back there. We've got some gigantic truck tires. This is the workbench that you guys just saw me working at, and our tool chests, Mustang fender, fan, secret boost pipes, and okay, I'll stop teasing you guys. This beautiful Mustang here, which is going to be hopefully showing up on the channel more as well. A lot of progress been made on this one, and it is already looking fantastic. But yeah. This thing is going to be some serious business. That is a very big supercharger, feeding straight into Holley Sniper EFI, feeding straight into a jumbo V8. So this thing will be a lot of fun. And of course, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous wheel choice. So I wish they were mine, but they are not mine. They are my brother's. So he has the Mustang, the Viper, and the Porsche. I have the XJR, I have the 59 Chevy, and then between us we also have the Jag XJS, which is kind of just a little project car that we are fixing up because clearly we don't have enough to do. So we decided, hey, why not? Let's take on another one that needs a bunch of things done to it. So, but honestly, it's really fun and it lets us bring you guys more content as well. So here, now you can see my face again. I'm sure you guys really were looking forward to that. And I also, otherwise I was like Chris Fix. I was just a hand. So anyway, yeah, that is the shop tour. It is not gigantic, but it is such an improvement over what we had in the past, which was basically our driveways, the occasional one bay garage, you know, just out in the sun, 90 degrees, 95 degrees in the summer in Florida with like 100% humidity. The fact that I can be in here filming, talking to you guys, and not dying of heat stroke is amazing. And the biggest thing that is just such a blessing is the ability to just walk away from the car when I'm done, and it's exactly where I left it when I came back. That was the thing that used to kill me with doing it at my house. It was like, you know, there was 20 minutes of farting around, bringing all the tools from the back of my house to the front driveway, and, you know, at the end of the day, I had to cover everything up, clean everything up, pack everything away. So having a space to work is just an amazing godsend. And yeah, it's not cheap, but it is worth every penny. It's been huge. So, oh, one other thing on the Jag, which I think, you know, most of you guys that are on here probably have been following and seen this, but we do have the absolutely giant intercooler, which literally fills every square inch of this space. I mean, it is like flush. You can see how deep that is. So it is flush with this metal here, and it is literally touching pretty much this bumper bar here all the way to the top. Which again, here in Florida with the heat, having that level of intercooling is really important because the blowers, specifically these Eaton M112s, are known for generating a lot of heat. So you really want to be able to cool down that charge, and you really want to make sure that the boost air that is going in there is as cool as it possibly can be. So that is a you know, real nice upgrade. That was probably about the most expensive thing I've bought for the car. Let's see here. All right. Oh man. All right. Well, I hate to do this, guys. I actually have to jump off the live. I've had a couple calls from a friend, and he is in a bit of a pickle and needs me to call him back. So he's in apparently somewhat of a car emergency. So I'm sorry, but thank you so much for following along. Seriously, it's been really nice chatting with you guys. Hopefully this has been educational and informative. And I now have to go call a friend and see if I can help him out. So thank you, and look out for the video to come out on the XJR, hopefully relatively soon here. And of course, we will do as many lives as we can. So see y'all later. Have a good one. And